Hey everybody, ronarray here, and as 3.27 progresses, one type of item stays in a very high demand always. And that type of item is Scarabs. So in this video, I wanted to showcase a very nice farming strategy, which is mostly focused on just farming Scarabs. It can bring a pretty decent amount of divines per hour if you will be able to do it fast, and can also help you to sustain your own Scarabs for other strategies. Let's go forward and I will be able to explain how exactly we are currently farming Scarabs, what kind of setup you will need, and all information that could help you to drop as many Scarabs as possible. So first off, let's start with the type of maps we're going to farm for Scarabs. And practically we have only two choices. First choice is just running tier 17 maps with more Scarabs modifier. And second choice is running tier 16.5 with more Scarabs modifier. So for tier 17 at the moment, there's like an option to choose between Fortress and Ziggurat. Both of them have like different pluses, and generally I think both of them should work absolutely fine for Scarab farming. And 16.5 could be any kind of map that you currently like. So for the Scarab farm, you need to aim for at least 100% more Scarabs at the moment. So doesn't matter if you're going for tier 16s or tier 17s, like 100% more Scarab modifier is absolutely necessary. And choosing between Fortress and Ziggurat, the question is very up to your game style. Fortress currently is providing more Scarabs because barrel inside the Fortress map are going to drop Scarabs for you, and that's going to lead to a situation when you're going to drop more Scarabs in general. However, Fortresses, especially with Scarab modifiers, will cost about 30 Chisels more, especially if you're going to buy them with a dedicated rolled modifier already and not going to roll yourself. And unfortunately, the boss in the Fortress map is not really providing that good amount of fragments, and fragments at that boss pretty cheap at the moment. So Ziggurat, on the other hand, is going to give you less Scarabs by itself. However, the Katarina from Ziggurat map is going to give you a lot of good fragments, which currently cost a big amount of currency, so you can sell fragments for more than 100 Chisels, and the map is paying for itself significantly more often. Katarina itself could be a little annoying as a boss, so you will need to choose here. If you just want easier map and more Scarabs, so go Fortress, and if you want to fight like harder boss but get easier way to pay for map itself, I think Ziggurat is probably going to be the best option here. 16.5 in my opinion is less good, mostly because of the pack size difference. So usually at tier 17s you're receiving maybe a little but more pack size and more monsters in general. That way 16.5 is not going to provide a lot of bonuses for you. So in that case you're not going to give any fragments, but buying those maps is significantly less expensive. So you can get basic 16.5 maps for like 20 Chisels at best, at the moment when tier 17s are going to cost at least 60-70 Chisels in the current situation. That way, I believe 16.5 is going to be a little less good in terms of drops, but you will be able to just pay less. So if you're on a budget, run 16.5. And talking about Fortress and Ziggurat setup, I believe that at the moment it's much easier to just buy those maps unidentified or roll them yourself. So if right now we will just sort maps by more Scarabs 140%, the cheapest Fortress that you can see will cost 100 Chisels, which is a very big amount of currency for just the map itself. But if you will drop that modifier, you can buy a normal Fortress about 67 Chisels at worst. So that could be a much easier way for you to just buy that map immediately and roll it yourself. So for example, if you're going to take the maps that I bought right now and try to roll it, I'm absolutely sure that we are going to spend less than 30 Chisels. So for example, more maps, pack size, 50 Scarabs but not good enough, 78 Scarabs already would be playable, but we still need to aim for 100. So, as you can see, it's finished. I spent about 20 chaoses at the moment, and I got them up with 111 more Scarabs. It's much easier than overpay for them. You can also get other bonuses, like more currency, for example. So I believe that rolling them up itself is easier, and you could avoid it only if you're heavily trying to run as many maps as possible and you're trying to save your time. So after we figure out the question with maps themselves, let's talk about the Scarabs that you will need to use for that strategy. And that's pretty straightforward at the moment. So first off, you're going to use Horned Scarabs of Nemesis. It's going to add additional modifier to your rare monsters. And that way you will be able to drop more Scarabs from rares, because you have a Atlas passive, which is giving you more chances for it. On top of it, you will also use Scarab of Adversaries, both of them, because it's going to give you 4 additional packs with mirrored rare monsters. Those are pretty good, they're all going to drop a lot of Scarabs, and the Scarab itself is not expensive at all, so it's really recommended to use it. And the last 2 Scarabs could be pretty random. So genuinely, you can try to run Scarab of Monsters Lineage, 2 of them. Or you can run Influencing Scarab of Hordes and 1 Scarab of Monsters Lineage. I honestly believe that setup is better because more influence monster packs is always going to provide a little more upside compared to just Monsters Lineage. However, if you don't really care that much about influenced packs, you can just run Scarab of Monsters Lineage double Adversaries and Nemesis. But in my opinion, the best setup is probably going to look somehow like that. So there's also a question is if you should use a Scarab of Risk. And at the moment, I believe the Cartography Scarab of Risk could be pretty nice for the strategy itself. But there's one reason which is honestly stopping me from using it, at least occasionally. So Cartography Scarabs of Risk at the moment is pretty expensive for a very simple strategy like Scarab farming. And I believe that paying additional 30 chaoses every time could be a little uncomfortable. So if you want to use Cartography Scarab of Risk, I would probably drop Monsters Lineage completely and just run Nemesis, double Adversaries, Risk and Hordes. So that will be the setup. And if you want to play more on a budget version of it, and especially if you're playing 16.5 instead of 17, just replace Risk with Monsters Lineage and call it a day. Another interesting question is should you use Maven Chisels of Scarabs? And the answer in my opinion is absolutely no, because every chisel will cost about 16 chaoses, making such setup very expensive for more Scarabs. And I believe it's absolutely not worth it to spend even more currency when you can already get a lot of Scarabs just from running basic maps with basic chisels. So at the moment, since those chisels are too expensive, I would probably recommend to avoid them. However, if in the future price is going to change, it's going to fall down, and they will cost approximately 5-7 chaoses, I believe there would be a point to start using Maven Chisels of Scarabs at that moment. So instead right now, I will probably recommend to use normal Cartography of Chisels for additional quantity. And the last step of the map setup is just Delirium. So I honestly recommend to run Fine Delirium Orb, especially if you're playing at tier 17. It's going to add additional monsters in the map, and you're also going to receive small rewards here and there. It costs about 8 chaoses each, and I think most of the time it's just paying for itself. So you can pick the map that you currently like and just click it with exactly 1 orb. You usually don't need more than any of those, and you're probably going to be absolutely fine with that. If you don't want to overpay for 5 Delirium Orb, you can run any Delirium Orb that you at the moment just have in your inventory. Now let's talk about Atlas that we are going to use for that strategy. And Atlas itself is very simple. So first off, you're just going up and taking all possible bonuses for Scarab. So start with taking Skittering Swarms, going to the left for Significant Troves. At top, you're going to take Amplified Artifacts, and don't forget to invest into Remarkable Relics as well. So as your influence, I recommend to go for Eater of Worlds, because Eater of Worlds will give you a chance to get like Scarab duplications more often. I believe taking both Rampant and Eldritch Gaze is pretty much worth it, and you can also invest into additional pack size for your Eater of Worlds packs. So on top of it, there's also a few important things that you will need to keep in mind while running this strategy. First off, you will need to ban all the Scarabs that you currently don't want to drop. So we're banning like Minor Strike for Calgars, we're banning Delirium Scarabs, Ritual Scarabs, Abysses, Expedition, and Legion. Don't ban Sacred Grove because I think you can get like Cornucopia Scarab right now for 30 chaoses, and it could be worth it in some situations. There's no point to ban blueprints and like rogue markets because they're not going to provide a dedicated Scarabs for you. And we're not banning Blight and Ultimatum because those Scarabs could be very expensive. And we also will need to take Face of the Ultimatum for additional chance for Scarabs to be Ultimatum Scarabs, because Ultimatum currently, like the most expensive Scarab, costs about 170 chaoses, which is more than 1 divine, and it's absolutely worth it. So we are going to take all bonuses to improve the chances to drop exactly Ultimatum Scarabs. It's also pretty nice to have like Trapping Carapaces for additional chance to drop Ambush Scarabs. And on top of it, I believe like Explorative Carapaces for Cartography Scarabs is also worth it, because that way you can get like more Scarabs of risks, and it's always going to lead to better loot. So make sure you're banning everything else, improving the chances for Ultimatum, for Ambush, and for Cartography. The rest of the passives you're just investing into 3% increased Scarabs found in your maps. So just invest those points practically everywhere where you can. On top of it, I believe taking like invasive adversaries at the moment should be pretty nice as well. And I'm playing with Singular Focus, however, if you don't feel like it's nice and you want to play like 16.5 to try to drop 17s, you can drop Singular Focus out of the tree completely. And also, you can add one additional Harbinger, because Harbinger can drop Scarabs if you feel like it. But if you don't, at the moment, just replay the Harbinger points with Cheater Champions, for example, and you can add a few more, just like 3% chances to drop Scarabs, or a little more pack size for influenced packs right here. So I'm going to leave the whole tree in the description just in case, so don't worry about it, you will be able to just copy it. And with such situation, it's also important to use a map craft to improve the chances for you to drop something good. So for example, if you're going to run that map, as your map craft, I recommend to run Ambush. And here's the reason why. For 4 chaoses, you're going to receive Scarabs found in area have 50% increased chance to be Ambush Scarabs. That way, you will be able to get like more chances for expensive Ambush Scarabs, and it's working pretty nice. You can also take Ultimatum instead for 50% increased chance to be Ultimatum Scarabs, but I believe that at the moment Ambush is a little better, especially since you already have the bonuses to the Ultimatum just from the tree. So take the Ambush, make sure you're running Eater of Worlds, Scarab of Adversaries double, Horn Scarab of Nemesis, Influence Scarab of Hordes, and the last one could be Cartography Scarab of Risks, or just Monsters Lineage for Magic pack size, because those are cheap, so for the cheaper version it will be something like that, and you're ready to go. So where the profit is coming from? Profit is mostly coming from different Scarabs that you're dropping. The best one is Ambush Scarab of Containment, and Ultimatum Scarab of Catalyzing is also pretty expensive, as like 1.5 divines at the minute. You can also drop a lot of Scarabs which are not really that good, but still can cost a different amount of currency, like Cartography Scarab of Risk, Harvest Scarab of Cornucopia, Divination Scarab of Pilfering, like a lot of basic setups, also Horn Scarab of Awakening and Pandemonium. Since the strategy itself is very cheap and you're mostly self-sustaining with Scarabs, the only thing that you will need to buy is map, and it's very easy to profit while running that, especially while the prices for some particular Scarabs, such as Containment and Catalyzing, is going to be high enough. So even if you're not dropping containment and catalyzing every map, you're still going to profit because you're dropping a lot of other Scarabs which you will be able to sell, and occasionally dropping containment and catalyzing, while you're not paying anything for the Scarabs, and maps are usually paying for themselves. I also don't really recommend to run Ultimatum in the map itself because it's usually not worth the time, and it's much more important to focus on finishing the maps as fast as you can. If you will follow that simple strategy, I'm sure it's going to provide a decent amount of currency for you, for almost no expense. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. ronarray out.